Everyone in the restaurant feared him until she arrived. Leon Rea was the place people booked when they wanted to pretend chaos didn't exist. Forks gleamed like mirrors. Napkins folded into obedient swans. Chandeliers poured honeyed light that made even water look expensive. If a spoon slipped from a saucer, 3 hands caught it before it fell. Precision lived here. Perfection collected a service charge. And yet everyone knew there was one man who could make the room forget how to breathe. The doors opened. The air cooled. Sterling Ward didn't enter so much as take possession. The crimson suit caught the light and kept it. His patterned silk tie cut a strict line. Gold cufflinks winked with a hunter's patience. The phone was welded to his palm, his gaze fixed on its glassy surface, as though eye contact were a favor he didn't know. A hostess stepped forward with a smile that trembled at the edges. Sterling passed her like she was part of the decor. He walked the central aisle with the calm of a verdict. A busboy flattened himself against a ficus. A sommelier lowered a bottle mid-pour. Conversations paused, swerved, and tried to pretend they hadn't. At table 6, Sterling sat, adjusted the exact angle of his knife, and tapped his screen with one practiced finger. The room exhaled, but not all the way. At 52, Sterling wasn't just wealthy, he was consequences. He'd built his commercial real estate empire the way storms build cities, by tearing others down first. Negotiations ended when he stopped talking. Careers ended when he started. He'd once replaced an entire lunch shift because a soup arrived at 90 degrees instead of 92. There was a rumor he'd shattered a Bordeaux glass with his palm and charged the breakage to the bill. No one knew if it was true. No one wanted to test it. In the service hallway, news moved faster than trays. He's here. Keep your head down. If you mess up, you won't last the week. Someone set dessert plates down too hard. Porcelain chimed like a warning bell. Coffee cups trembled in their saucers. A junior waiter mouthed a prayer to the espresso machine. Even Jonas, the cool-blooded manager, rolled his shoulders like a man bracing for weather. The warning reached new ears. Zariah Coleman stilled mid-knot as she tied her apron. 30. Deep brown skin that drank the warmth of the chandeliers without asking permission. Crisp white blouse, navy skirt. Posture so precise you could level a picture frame on her spine. First day at Leon Rea, but not her first storm. She listened the way a boxer listens to a crowd, weighing it, measuring it, deciding how much to ignore. Darren, senior waiter, slid in front of her like a human barricade. Listen, Ward isn't a table. He's an event. Keep your answers short, your hands steady, and your pride out of the way. He once sent back an entire course because the garnish faced north. Mara, the hostess, hugged a stack of menus. Last month he made Chloe cry over a wine pour. She quit that night. Second night, Darren corrected, as if accuracy could save anyone. Zariah's eyes flicked past them to the golden hush of the dining room. How many of you quit not saying anything? No one laughed. Someone swallowed loud enough to rise over the hum. This place is perfect until he walks in, Darren said. Then it's a stage, and he runs his show. We survive. That's the job. Zariah smoothed a rebellious crease from her blouse. I've served drunks who thought the room spun because of me. I've served people who believe cameras elevate them above manners. I can serve a man in a red suit. From the dining room came a single, sharp ting of glass on china. Not a plea. A summons. Mara flinched. That's him. Jonas leaned out from the kitchen pass, eyes scanning for a volunteer and landing on inevitability. Coleman. Zariah met his look. You're up? Jonas said, like a dealer turning a card he didn't want to see. Darren's fingers brushed her elbow, half warning, half superstition. Don't correct him. Don't contradict him. Don't worry, Zariah finished, tying off her knot. The smile that tilted her mouth wasn't sweet. It was the kind you give a locked door before you find the hinge. If he's looking for someone to scare, he picked the wrong waitress. Across the room, Sterling angled his chair just enough to see the service entrance. He didn't lift his head, but the corner of his mouth moved, something like interest disturbing the surface of a very still lake. The chandeliers hummed. The floor gleamed. The illusion of perfection waited to see who would blink first. Zariah stepped from shadow into light. The man everyone feared finally had someone walking toward him who didn't. She kept a steady pace, each step a measured choice. Table 6 sat under a sugar-dusted cone of light, Sterling's phone a cold sun in his hand. He didn't look up when she arrived. Good evening, sir, she said, tone crisp enough to cut. Filet? Medium, he murmured, scrolling. His eyes lifted for the first time. And if it's overcooked like last time, a small, pleased curve at his mouth. I'll make someone cry again. Noted, she said, pin unmoved. No. He leaned back, evaluating her the way a collector inspects a vase, looking for cracks he could name as flaws. Yes, sir. Humph. He set the phone down with a soft thunk, a gold cufflink glinting like a blade. You people don't last long. Depends who we're serving. His tapping finger stopped. Something minute tightened in his face. Don't get clever, he said in a voice that could have been advice or threat. It's not charming. Neither is making staff cry. Silence, quick and taut as a violin string. You like your job? He asked, feigning casual. The game had started. He preferred games with pieces that ran. I like doing it well. He gave a humorless breath of a laugh. We'll see how long that lasts. He flicked his gaze toward the wine list without asking. She slid it closer before he reached. He barely glanced. Bring me the Malbec, and try not to confuse it with Syrah. Of course, she said, but something in her eyes told him she'd cataloged the slight, not the suggestion. As she turned, he called, Coleman? She glanced back. Yes. I've had dogs that listen better than most waiters. Let's hope you're house-trained. I'm not here to fetch, Mr. Ward. His smirk returned, but it didn't fully arrive. For a beat, it stalled, as if surprised to find resistance. Back at the station, Mara whispered, You poked him. Zariah lifted the Malbec with both hands, label aligned, shoulders squared. Good, she said softly. Let's see what wakes up. She returned to table 6 and placed the bottle so the label faced him. Would you like to taste it, sir? Obviously. She poured a careful measure, the stream a silver thread. She stopped a hair before perfect. Control, not servitude. He swirled, sniffed, sipped, and spat it back. The dark splash bruised the white linen. Are you stupid? He said, voice rising just enough to pull eyes from plates. Or just blind? This is Syrah. I asked for Malbec. You pointed to. Don't argue with me. His words cracked the air. I've had dogs that listen better than you. The room tightened. Forks hovered midair. A laugh died on someone's tongue. Glass stem between his fingers, he made a small, almost casual motion, as if flicking away lint. The half-full glass arced, smashed against the table edge, and exploded into red. Wine slapped her blouse, bled through the cotton, freckled her jaw. Shards skittered to the floor. A baby cried somewhere. A spoon clattered. He leaned back, satisfied, and picked up his phone. I'll be expecting a refund, he said. And a manager. You're done. For a heartbeat. All she heard was the slow metronome of her own breath. The room waited for the usual, apologies, retreat, invisible cleanup, and discovered something else. She set her notepad on the empty chair beside his table and took one step forward. The stain cooled against her skin. Heat rose in her chest. You're right, she said, not raising her voice and still reaching the room's far corner. I am done. His smirk widened. The script he preferred was on schedule. I've spent a lifetime cleaning up after men like you, she continued, each word laid down like a tile. Men who think money buys them the right to spit on dignity. You break people because you're broken. You humiliate staff to feel powerful. But all it shows is you've never earned respect, only bought fear. A ripple moved through the diners. Not pity, recognition. His jaw twitched. Careful, he said, leaning in. You're digging your own grave. I've been homeless, she said, the words simple as breath. I've worked 3 jobs at once. I've watched my mother scrub hospital floors at midnight and still come home smiling. Tell me, Mr. Ward, what can you take from me that I haven't already survived? He opened his mouth. Nothing emerged. Phones rose like flowers turning toward light. From the kitchen corridor, shoes clicked faster. Jonas, flushed, appeared at Zariah's shoulder, eyes ricocheting between them. Mr. Ward, Zariah, let's just. I think that's enough. The voice came from the corner table, deep and even, and it traveled without hurry. Heads turned as one. A tall man with salt and pepper hair stood, slid his chair in with the kind of care that makes noise respected, and walked forward. No tie. Gray blazer. Calm stacked on calm. He didn't rush. He didn't need to. Sterling's shoulders eased a fraction. Finally, he said, letting a laugh crawl back into his throat. Someone reasonable. The man stopped at the table and looked, first, at the stain drying on Zariah's blouse, then at the glittering debris near her shoes, then at Sterling. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of decisions made long before this moment. "Mr. Ward," he said, "I watched this from the moment you arrived." Sterling tipped his chin. "Then you saw how she disrespected me. I want her." "No," the man said. He didn't raise his tone. He didn't have to. "I saw how you humiliated her deliberately, publicly, as you've done to nearly every server who's had the misfortune of walking up to your table in my restaurant." The room shivered on the word my. Zariah blinked. She knew the face from the staff handbook photo, smaller, less alive. "Roland Hale, owner." Sterling tried to laugh and found no purchase. "Roland, come on. We've known each other for years." "Yes," Roland said. "And I've tolerated your behavior for years. Because of your money. Because of your influence. Because sometimes keeping the peace felt easier than doing the right thing." He paused long enough for silence to sit down. "Not anymore." A hush opened into space. Somewhere, a chair eased. A throat cleared and swallowed the sound. Roland turned to Zariah. The look he gave her wasn't pity. It was assessment, then decision. "You," he said, as if noting a diagnosis, spoke with the kind of truth this place has needed for a very long time. Sterling's voice sharpened, desperate to find an edge. "You're siding with her, a waitress who just insulted a loyal customer?" "I'm siding with dignity," Roland said. A single clap came from the bar, too loud, too alone, then died, embarrassed at being first. "Jonas," Roland said without turning, and the manager nearly saluted. "Give Ms. Coleman the floor manager position." "Effective immediately." Gasps scattered like dropped pearls. Zariah didn't move. For a second, her breath forgot how. Sterling surged up from his chair, alarm replacing arrogance. "Are you insane? You're rewarding insubordination." "I'm addressing abuse," Roland said. All weather burned from his tone until only iron remained. He leaned in just enough to make the next sentence a boundary. "And as for you, Mr. Ward, you're banned from Leon Rea. Permanently." It hit like a cold wave. "You can't do that," Sterling said, but it was smaller than he meant it to be. "I can," Roland said, "and I just did." For once, Sterling's mouth opened and found nothing to carry. He looked around as if a familiar ally might stand. No one rose. No one even shifted. The staff who used to sprint at the angle of his wrist watched him with their hands still at their sides. Applause started from the table near the window. 2 people, then 4, then the left half of the room, then the right. It wasn't thunder, it was rain, steady, cleansing, patient. It washed the last of something away. Zariah stood where she was, wine drying to a map on white. Her hands trembled, but not from fear. Pride shook too. Sterling scanned the faces, searching for deference, finding none. He reached for his phone, glanced at the screen, set it down again. The old circuitry didn't connect. He smoothed his jacket, looked at Zariah for a beat that admitted something no apology could, and walked out. He left without dessert, without a speech, without the weather changing with him. Air moved differently. Shoulders lowered. Voices rediscovered their indoor pitch. Somewhere in the corner, the baby that had cried earlier discovered its thumb and made peace with the world. Jonas exhaled a laugh he hadn't planned and murmured to Zariah, "Manager's apron is in the office." The word surprised him into smiling. A busboy who never spoke above a murmur said, to no one in particular, "She just changed this place." No one argued. By morning, Leon Rea's storm had become the city's breakfast conversation. A diner's 3-minute clip bloomed across feeds. A red-splashed blouse, a steady voice, a billionaire's silence, an owner's verdict. The caption said what others had swallowed for years. She finally said what we were all thinking. 1 million views in 6 hours. 2 million by evening. Comment sections filled like theaters. "She's a hero. Money can't buy manners." "Roland Hale, you legend." Hashtags budded and climbed. Hashtag respect is the dress code. Hashtag Zariah versus Sterling. Hashtag service workers fight back. Morning shows called. A late-night host delivered a neat joke with a steel point. Think pieces debated the price of civility and who had been footing the bill. Behind glass 100 floors up, Sterling Ward sat with a skyline he used to wear like a medal and found it heavy. He scrolled through contacts that had once answered on the first ring and reached voicemail gardens. 2 sponsors announced ethical review, and then termination of partnership. A gala scrubbed his name from the donor wall. The press release forgot to mention it ever belonged there. His assistant knocked, smaller than usual. There's another news crew in the lobby, she said. They want to ask about the restaurant. He waved her away. The phone in his hand felt like a small, useless brick. For the first time in years, he had no one left to intimidate. At Leon Rea, the kitchen laughed in a register it hadn't used in months. Footsteps didn't curl around corners. People looked up and didn't flinch. A week later, a plaque appeared by the host's stand, small as a palm and brighter than a chandelier. Respect is the dress code. Manager, Zariah Coleman. Guests paused to read it without meaning to. Staff touched it with their eyes before they tied aprons. In the office, Zariah stood in a clean uniform. The stain was gone. The memory wasn't. Roland handed her a folder and not quite a smile. You didn't come here looking for a fight, he said. No, she said. But I wasn't going to let him throw wine at me and walk out smiling. That's why you're staying, he said. You didn't just stand up for yourself. You gave everyone else permission to stand taller. Are you sure? She asked, a reflex with nothing behind it. Fear left with him that night, Roland said, nodding toward the door and everything beyond it. It's not coming back. She stepped onto the floor. Heads lifted. Nods met her, small, uncoached, real. A table by the window applauded once, and then pretended they hadn't. She grinned without showing teeth and kept walking. Some victories make headlines. Others change the air you breathe. For Leon Rea, that air had never been cleaner.